On Saturday, March 21st, Governor Gavin Newsom made an address to the citizens of California in which he called out teens for not taking the recently ordered shelter-in-place seriously.
Let's bend the curve together. Let's not regret. Let's not dream of regretting.
While there is no shortage of teenagers going outside or disobeying the orders, it doesn't seem quite fair to pin all the blame on younger generations. The San Francisco Chronicle and CNN both report California beaches and public parks as seeing unheard of attendance of people all trying to get some fresh air. After this past weekend, California government officials have started to close down public areas altogether. Beaches and parks in areas such as LA, Santa Monica, Mount Tamalpais, and Half Moon Bay have started to close down to mitigate the spread of coronavirus as much as possible. For this first episode of the COVID Chronicles, I wanted to lay some groundwork on what's been going on in California. What's been happening, what are people doing about it, and what does the future look like? Tracking the first case is a wicked hard and futile task, so we'll pick up with the shelter in place. On Thursday, March 19th, California Department of Public Health reported that the state had 675 confirmed cases and 16 deaths, up from 598 and 13 deaths the day before. As of Friday, March 27th, California has 4,877 confirmed cases and 98 deaths. This may seem like an alarming spike, but there are many factors that can lead to a massive spike like this. While the infection rate of coronavirus is no joke, an important factor to consider is the number of tests available. The large increase in confirmed cases may have been a result of more testing occurring, and therefore we just learned more about the situation. LA has been able to acquire 20,000 tests and plans on making 100,000 free tests to the public available sometime soon. Based on California's case-to-death ratio, you have roughly a 2% death rate. However, most people recognize that with the inconsistency of test availability, this number may not be completely accurate. Based on current data, most fatality rate estimates lie between 1 and 3%. Gavin Newsom recently announced that California's 416 hospitals have a combined 78,000 beds for patients, and the state is working to set up 10,000 additional beds by converting hotels and convention centers into quasi-hospitals. While this number may seem great, they don't necessarily meet the mark we need. Newsom believes that within 2 months, 56% of Californians, or 22 million people, could be infected if aggressive measures are not taken soon. This is where Flatten the Curve comes into play. Flattening the curve essentially started as a visual aid created by the CDC in 2007. It's a hypothetical graph of the number of cases of a disease over time. What's important to remember is that the y-axis represents the number of cases at one given time, as opposed to total cases so far. This first hill represents the rate of infection if little or no action is done to stop the spread of the virus. The second model represents what happens if people avoid contact and work to slow the spread of the virus greatly. This dotted line represents the hypothetical limit of the healthcare system. So in the case of California, this line will represent roughly 90-ish thousand people. The graph's basic premise is to show that by staying healthy and slowing the infection of a virus, the healthcare system does not become overwhelmed with patients and those who truly need care can get it. California's shelter-in-place is trying to slow the rate of infection of the coronavirus so that the number of people infected at one time doesn't exceed our 90-ish thousand people limit. This model doesn't necessarily mean that fewer people will get the virus, nor does it mean that everyone who receives treatment will be okay, but this does significantly change the game on how we can deal with the coronavirus. With this flattened model, hospitals are able to provide important care and treatment such as respirators to those who are affected. So what's being done to make sure this curve is flattened? Besides blaming rebellious teenagers, Gavin Newsom has actually faced the coronavirus head-on. Newsom signed an executive order, and with this order, he temporarily prohibited foreclosure or eviction if someone had a loss of income due to the virus. The money for rent and mortgage is not waived, however, it is put off. The same goes for essential utilities such as water and electricity. Mayor Eric Garcetti of Los Angeles enacted something very similar to Newsom's plan on March 23rd. On Friday, March 20th, Gavin Newsom put a shelter-in-place into effect across the entire state of California.
That we direct a statewide order for people to stay at home.
Newsom also stated that the state would be more aggressively policing xenophobic attacks against Asians, which is of course awesome. Additionally, the number of schools that have closed and or switched to online classes is growing every day. While California has a homeless population with estimates over 150,000, Gavin Newsom this past week committed $150 million for emergency funding for the homeless. Governor Newsom, as well as counties such as Los Angeles, have been working with private hotels to create shelters for the homeless. Unfortunately, these efforts are moving at a slow enough pace that is starting to worry some as if the housing can be provided fast enough. In Hollywood, most major productions have been delayed as well, including Wonder Woman 1984, No Time to Die, and Fast and Furious 9. The MLB, NHL, and NBA postponed their seasons until further notice, and NCAA's March Madness tournament was canceled this year as well. Coachella was also postponed to this October in hopes that the virus would die down by then. Disneyland is now closed through March 31st. Since its opening, Disneyland is closed for the assassination of John F. Kennedy in 1963 and the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. So, is this all effective? With the shelter-in-place still in its preliminary stages, it is still a little early to see that much. However, as of Friday, March 27th, California reported 4,877 cases. For comparison, New York has 44,876. There are many factors that can contribute to this disparity, the main one being the amount of available testing. New York has been able to test about 90,000 people, while California has only gotten to about 27,000 individuals. Some health officials recommend paying attention to the death totals, as a lack of tests doesn't hinder the death counts. As of Friday, New York reported 527 deaths, while California reported 98. This would imply that New York is only 5 times worse than California, as opposed to tenfold if you look at the number of cases. The other main reason for New York's significantly larger problem might just be their head start. It is possible California is on a similar track to New York, but New York may have just had a few days head start. While the things aren't certain for the future, California definitely set a new precedent for tackling the virus head on. The Bay Area ordered a shelter-in-place on Monday, March 16th. At that point, New York had 450 confirmed cases, and the Bay Area had 300. 4 days later, Governor Cuomo ordered the state of New York to stop all but necessary trips outside. By that point, the Bay Area had 539 cases. New York had 5,500. While Newsom has been trying to mitigate the economic fallout of the situation, many Californians are still struggling to pay their bills as they start to lose their jobs. Many small business food vendors depend on their jobs and have had no choice to stay open despite the minimal foot traffic. California's Employment Department's website currently has a disclaimer on their website about the large increase in claims filed recently when you make an unemployment insurance claim. This disclaimer also mentions how they are extending their resources to meet this influx of requests. Objectively, this disclaimer doesn't mean anything for certain about future claims, but it doesn't look good, nor does it seem like they'll be able to help people get money fast enough to keep businesses and properties going. As for what is to come, I hate to beat a dead horse, but things are really still uncertain. According to the SF Chronicle, Tuesday, March 17th, Gavin Newsom said that California schools should be prepared to not return to school until fall 2020. Even more recently, on Tuesday, March 24th, President Trump held a press conference in which he stated his hopes to have the shelter-in-place lifted before Easter.
Easter is a very special day for many reasons. For me, for a lot of our friends, that's a very special day.
While religion may be very important to a lot of people in a time like this, gathering en masse has to feel dangerous. Iran recently, after much debate, closed a majority of its holy sites because the gathering spread infection at dangerous rates. Rushing to the end of a shelter-in-place slightly too soon, only to have millions of Californians congregate in densely packed areas, seems extremely counterintuitive and dangerous. The important thing to remember about flattening the curve is that it takes time. A key part of slowing the infection rate is spreading out the infections over as long a period as possible. If you look online, there's also no shortage of people encouraging others to stay inside and make the best of their time, as all Californians unite by themselves. Hey everybody, thanks so much for watching this first episode of COVID Chronicles. A huge shout out to Squarespace. They didn't sponsor this video, but I just have always wanted to say that. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. I had a lot of fun making it. I didn't really expect to get as in-depth into the research as I did. I know it's pretty dense, but I think there's a lot of really important numbers in there, so I hope you enjoyed it. On my right, there should be a list of sources going by that I used in this video and during my research. If you'd like clickable links to these websites, you can also go into the description of this video and you'll find a Google Doc attachment, as well as a transcript of the video will be there. So I hope you enjoyed this first episode. Thanks!